So welcome everybody. Thanks for being patient. Had a little slight delay, but really psyched to be here with my old buddy Bill Gibson. Man, looking good too with a little the I don't know.
No, I don't know what to call it either, really.
Yeah, the pandemic look. I don't know, not to
Yeah,
make light of it.
like I told you earlier, it's the COVID 2020 spring summer look.
It suits you, buddy.
Yeah,
It suits you, buddy. Coming live from Bill's studio too, which is, man, fantastic. Yeah, looks great.
yeah,
So
right out in back of my house. I don't have to go anywhere. I step out my kitchen door, walk 20 steps, and I'm in the studio.
oh, that's
It's
great.
phenomenal.
Nothing better than that. And you're still in Mill Valley?
No, I'm up farther north in Marin County. I'm up right on the Sonoma Marin County line.
Beautiful. I love that area, man.
It's a great
Yeah,
area.
that's the place to be. No offense to anybody in LA, but if you live in California, that's where you want to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tell my daughters that all the time.
Are both daughters in LA or just
Yeah,
live? Oh, both
yeah.
are.
Liv and Julia are both. Julia's in Long Beach and lives in Santa Monica.
Well, they can come visit as they do. So
And they do all the time.
that's great. That's great. Let's see if we got anybody. I don't see any. Well, let's see. I do maybe see some questions. Hold on a second. My iPad is so slow. All right, and I'm breaking the rule with the sound. So, all right. All right. Yeah, we got a lot of people watching actually so far. Cool.
Greg
Aaron Comus.
Davenport.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Rob, I miss Rob so much. Man, I haven't even seen Rob in about 2.5 years, and it's just brutal. You know what happened was
I know.
such a drag. I really miss him. And hey, Greg, I miss you too.
Yeah. Hi guys. Two good guys. Rob is Bill's drum tech for 15 or more years, probably, if he had to.
Over 15 years. Yeah,
Yeah. And he's my old buddy from when I worked at Simmons. He was my
yeah,
boss
yeah.
35 years ago when I started working there. Yeah. Good guy. And I got to see him. Maybe I saw him more recently because he came to the NAMM show, the 2019 NAMM show, and we had dinner one night. And it was either on his birthday or the day before his birthday, and he turned 60. So we had a nice little celebration. And he
Yeah,
talked
nice.
about you. Yeah, cool. Um,
I'm sure he had lots of glowing things to say.
of course he did. Yeah, of course he did. Come on.
He says, "Hi, chaps."
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, everybody. Hey, what's up, Bill? So this is great for me because it's been no secret on my Facebook page for since I've been on there how much of a fan I am of Bill, um, and I know there's a lot of people. I always think it's great when I I'll put something up there and somebody go, yeah, man, I love the way that guy plays. His pocket is his ideas and so anyway, this is a treat. We're buddies. We've been buddies a long time, but it's a treat to just talk about
Yeah,
drum stuff with you.
long time.
I know, man. Yeah, long time. We were kids.
We were
Yeah.
literally. Hey, do you remember the time I brought Huey's dad to Zildjian?
Well, that was I do, and it was actually just before I was just before I started.
Oh, really?
It was I wasn't. I think it was the summer before I started there. But I saw the pictures. The pictures were all up, hanging there, and because his dad was a drummer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he just like my dad, kind of a frustrated jazz drummer. He was a radiologist by trade, but he passed away 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I think now. And he talked about that visit to Zildjian for the rest of his life.
Oh man,
And
that's so great.
it was a highlight of his life was me taking him to the Zildjian factory, and they showed us that day how they made the cymbals, and we did the whole tour. And at the end, I can't remember who it was, came and presented him with a big ride cymbal. Nine rides.
Oh,
And he
that's so cool.
talked about that for the rest of his life. was fan, and I was really sorry that I never got my dad
Yeah.
the chance to do that same tour, because he told me from even when before I started playing drums, he would say, Avita, Zildjian, those are the only cymbals.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That like that, and that's the fact that your dad was a drummer. Like I had to sell my dad on the idea because he saw as a kid, he's like, wait a minute, these are way more expensive than the ones they sell in the Sears catalog. But Dad, they're Zildjians, and my dad has been gone now 8 years, but he'd say, I'll bet I could blindfold you and you'd never be able to tell the difference between. And
Yeah.
then later, of course, when I even before I got the job there, but by the time I got the job there, he'd say, okay, I was wrong. They're the best. And but that's cool. What a great story, man. That's yeah, I think that was I remember seeing the pictures of it, and it was just before I got there, and I know Lenny was there, and probably Leon and
Leon
Colin.
there. Yep.
Yep, yeah, the gang. But man, so I see there's some questions already. Um, love the split screen. Oh, I guess we're doing something different on the screen. I don't know. Maybe it's
I'm on split screen. It looks good.
yeah, it does look good. Um,
And Carlos thinks you look great.
I pay him well. You look better. You always do.
Nonsense.
Always do. Always with the styling outfits and the whole thing.
Yeah, my styling T-shirt.
So I know we've talked about this before, but you started playing at around 11 or 12. Is
Yeah.
that about right? Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to be a clarinet, a saxophone player in the fourth grade. I remember I was 7 years old or 8 years old. And was I 8 years old in the fourth grade? Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah.
8 years old. And I went to the band teacher and I said, I want to play saxophone. Because I would watch Lawrence Welk on Sunday afternoons, and I saw the big sax section that
Yeah.
was so smooth, man. When I go, that's cool. I thought that was cool. So I want to play sax. So they handed me a clarinet and said, here, it's the same mouthpiece. Go learn this. And I took it home and I put it together and I went, well, wait a minute. This doesn't sound like a saxophone. But I tried it anyway for a few years. And my dad, being the drummer, would always, he was an architect by trade. So he'd be in his office drafting on his drafting board with headphones on, listening to K-Jazz from San Francisco, Jazzbo, Big Al Collins from San Francisco. And he said, Billy, come here. And he'd put the headphones on and it'd be some drummer taking a solo and he'd say, that's Art Blakey. Check it out. And then, and so I'd listen for a while and I go, yeah, cool. And hand him back his headphones and going, I was a kid. And every time a drummer would come on with a solo, he'd come here, put the headphones on me. So he really got me into it and gave me my first pair of sticks and I started playing and yeah.
Did your dad give you lessons, or did he have you? Did he get you a teacher?
He taught. No, I never studied privately.
No kidding.
No, I never studied privately. He taught me how to swing, however. He taught me the Ray Badook beat on the cymbal. Yeah. Ray Badook. It's not Ray Badook, Ray Badook. It's Ray Badook, Ray Badook, Ray Badook. That little lag in there,
Yeah.
That he thought that was the cool, and I do as well. That's how you really swing. I'll show you.
Yeah.
It's like, you tighten up that 16th note or that 8th note and the quarter note,
Yeah.
Instead of is. Yes, he taught me that. And that got me off to the races. Then he took me to see Buddy Rich about 5 times. And he'd sit there and he'd say, watch his left hand. Just watch his left hand. You can't watch Buddy Rich's left hand. It's impossible.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, but he'd take me to see all kinds of. I was raised on big band jazz, really, and he'd take me to see Kip Basie at the Monterey Jazz Festival and Duke Ellington and Woody Herman's band, and
Oh,
Thad
cool.
Jones, Mel Lewis, and Don Ellis big band, and all the great big bands, you know.
Well, you
And
can hear that in your playing, Bill. Absolutely. I mean, the first time I heard you, you could hear. I think the first song I heard of you guys, probably like a lot of people, was "Do You Believe in Love?"
oh yeah,
and and the chorus swings like mad. It's just got that loose swinging but tight, groovy thing. And honestly, I remember the first time I heard you, I thought this is no run of the mill rock drummer in this band. Like, this guy's got some stuff going on, and I didn't think much of it. And then when Sports came out, the whole collection of those songs, and you really shined on that. I mean, it was like, okay, yeah, there's way more going on here. This
yeah,
is not like a guy in a pop band or something.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah. But I don't know why I thought we talked about this. I thought you had taken lessons, because you sound very like schooled. You sound like somebody that's really had some serious training.
Well, my high school band teacher didn't really teach me privately, but he showed me a lot of things. And I played. I would play 6 hours a day. I go home after school and just sit down and play, play, play. And then I started playing with other people. And every day we'd go practice for 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours a day. So it was just so much playing back then,
Yeah. Yep.
that I just was able to play what I heard after a certain point, which was nice.
Yeah. And you probably, I'm thinking, at that time, by the time you were a teenager, you probably got in a band. I think you started playing with Huey like in eighth grade or something, or ninth
No,
grade or something,
no, I was. Um, he and
or
I
knew him.
Well, he and I were in junior high together. He was in the eighth grade, and I was in the seventh grade. And when you're that age, that's
Yeah.
eighth
Yeah.
graders didn't hang around with seventh graders. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
I knew of him. My sister kind of knew him. She was in the eighth grade with him. I knew of him. We didn't really know each other, and that didn't happen until I found out that he joined this kind of rival band of the band I was in, playing
Yeah.
all the local clubs, Clover. And I'll never forget. Somebody called me and said, "Hey, did you hear Hugh Craig joined Clover?" Or Hugh Craig and Sean Hopper joined Clover. I said, "Really?" I said, "What does Hugh do?" I had no idea that he played harmonica or sang or anything like that. I said, "What
Oh,
does he
that's
do?"
great. Yeah.
So yeah.
'Cause
So then we became friends because we'd see each other all the time after that.
yeah.
And we kind of our band was kind of full of musicians, and Clover was as well. I mean, John McPhee came from Clover,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
amazing musician, and Alex Call and those guys. And our band was kind of full of guys who were really serious about the music, and
Yeah.
we became his favorite musicians, and like that.
That's a great story. And I asked that because I remember a couple of times when I've seen you guys, when he introduces the band, he'll say, um, you know, something like, he'll introduce Sean and he'll say, Sean and I have known each other since the seventh grade. And he'll say, but Bill, I haven't known as long. I've only known him since the eighth grade, or something like that, and it's just, I love how deep those roots go with you guys. Even if you weren't playing together, just the fact that you go back that far that's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah.
He always says, and Clover was a better band than Soundhole. He said that many times on stage. Johnny and I look at each other and go, "Hey, hey, hey."
Yeah.
We were far better than you guys.
That's
But
awesome, man.
what was the question you asked me before? You asked me about playing together in high school. While I was in high school is when I met Sean Hopper, and
Yeah.
we jam all the time together. So I had literally since high school, Sean and I played together. Mario, our original bass player, I started playing with him when I was 18. He was 15. And Sean was 16, I guess, when I started playing with him. So we really literally grew up together playing.
Yeah. Yep. That's great. And that was my understanding too, is like there were two bands that sort of came together and you guys had one sort of faction
Yep.
and yeah, I mean, and I was going to say too, at that time, you know, the sort of world was just a perfect place for like, you know, garage bands to play too. Like you could
And
play dances and
everyone everyone here in Marin was in a garage band or some
yeah,
kind of band. Everyone. And I mean, there was so much music going on here in Marin at the time with of course, all the San Francisco sound going on and Bill Graham bringing in people from, you know, England and all over the States. And, you know, it was such a melting pot of musical styles and musicians, you know, it was really an incredible time for music.
yeah. Kathy Kathy Gella says first the earth cooled, then the dinosaurs came, and then Sean and I started playing together. Is that a quote from you?
That's a quote from Huey.
Oh,
He
from
said
Huey.
that's how he introduces Sean sometimes.
I think I've heard that. Yeah, yeah. And Gibraltar has its rock, and the news has Bill Gibson on drums.
Yeah,
Yep.
he says that too. Hi,
Yeah, that's
Kathy. How you doing?
that's a great.
I'm
My
feeling
buddy
a
Mike.
little better. I was fighting off a cold,
Oh
and
man.
I know Kathy quite well. She's a good friend, and she we go to Cal football games together, and you know do odds and odd stuff together. And she said, "Hey, are you ready for a socially distanced gathering or you know a get together so we can just talk?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of been fighting a cold, so maybe let me get to feeling a little better." So I'm feeling a little better, Kathy.
I'm glad you're feeling
Maybe
better,
we could
pal.
do
Thanks.
that.
Thanks for doing this too, by the way.
Sure, my pleasure.
It's great. This is great.
Like I
Been wanting
said,
to
I
do
texted you the other day. I said, I thought you'd never ask.
this. But you had to know I would, though. You know,
Eventually, sure.
absolutely. You know, those other guys, those guys have been hounding me, Rick and Steve and everybody. I had to kind of, you know, satisfy them, and then
Yeah. Get guys like Steve Gadd and Rick Marotta out of the way. You know,
exactly for the good stuff.
that was so much fun to watch.
Oh, that was yeah, and I do want to just, I don't know if Steve's watching, but Rick could be watching. I want to thank those guys and thank everybody that watched the other day when Steve kind of hijacked Rick's little chat. And last week with Stan Lynch was a lot of fun too,
Oh yeah.
from the Heartbreakers. That was great. And I'm going to just read a quick question here from Mike Carter,
Okay.
who's the Zildjian rep down in Florida. Old buddy. He said, Bill, when did you first start dealing with click track recording, and any stories? Talk about the sounds on sports.
Click track was probably sports. And we didn't use a machine per se, like on tune,
Yeah.
like Walking on a Thin Line that has the arpeggiated keyboard, you know,
Yeah.
ding, 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 that's what we used for time. And I just had that keyboard track going loud and I played off that. So
Wow.
it was a click track, but it was a keyboard. It was, you know, musical notes on a keyboard.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I think I didn't start using a drum machine click track till 4.
4. Okay. Is Bad is Bad? Is that a machine on that song?
That's
It
Lindrum.
is. It's a Lindrum. But
Yeah.
that's the only song, right? I mean, Heart of Rock and Roll. I mean, Want a New Drug is you.
Well, it's that Want a New Drug is a hybrid of machine and me.
Okay. Yeah.
The bass drum and one snare drum is the Lindrum. And I went in
Yep.
and overdubbed hi-hats, cymbals, and tom-toms.
Right. That's right. So the tom-toms are you, the fills are you.
And I
Yep.
fooled everyone.
Tell the Jeff Beccaro story. You got to tell that.
Fooled everyone. I remember talking to Jeff once. He and Steve Lukather came to one of our shows down in Los Angeles. And he said, man, he said, I just love that I Want a New Drug, man. You are grooving so heavy on that. And I just said, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I didn't have the heart to tell him. But yeah, and really nobody got that was machine and me overdubbing.
Yeah.
I did that on New Drug, Heart and Soul's all me, Heart of Rock and Roll is all me, again to arpeggiated synthesizer
Yeah.
as a click track. Heart and Soul's all me, no click track.
Yeah.
New Drug was the hybrid.
If This Is It, I'm guessing is you.
If This Is It is me, no click track.
Yeah. Wow.
Thin
Yeah.
Line, arpeggiated keyboard. Honky Tonk Blues is all me. Who Cares on it? No. No. What other songs were on that record? I can't.
I think that's it. I'll see if I can pull it up real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hold on one second, my friend. Okay. We got Heart of Rock and Roll, Heart and Soul, Bad is Bad, New Drug, Walking on a Thin Line, Finally Found a Home.
Finally Found a Home. That's all me.
Yeah, and You Crack Me Up is the other one we hadn't mentioned.
Crack Me Up. That's to arpeggiated synthesizer.
Wow. Yeah. And that was at a time, for people that don't know this, you and I do, because we've been around a little while, but that was at a time when everybody was using machines on records. I mean, it was kind of like sadly accepted practice.
Prince, Purple Rain had just come out, and that was all Lindrum.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was really the sound back then.
Yeah.
Huey wanted to incorporate that. He thought that would make us sound modern, and so yeah. There was a question here: is Couple Days Off a hybrid? And yes, Couple Days Off is a hybrid. The double kick drums, which I play live. I play that song live all the time with double kick drums, but that's a machine kick, and I'm playing everything else: snare drum, all the fills, all the cymbals, all the hi-hat, everything. I played along to that with the kick drums going. So yeah, it is a hybrid. Yeah.
And I've seen you do it live a bunch of times, and you nail all those parts from the record perfectly. Right. I put a video clip up yesterday. I don't know if you saw it from like 1985.
Heart and Soul.
Heart and Soul, and you play that percussion thing at the beginning in it, and I've seen you do that, and that first time I saw that, it blew my mind, because it was just like, holy shit. I mean, it's just like, it was perfection. Just and it just grooved like mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the band was formed in 79.
Right.
So 41 years ago. And, this is the 35-year anniversary of Power of Love, mm-hmm. which is pretty cool to think. Like, I mean, you guys had already been, the sports had already been out, but that was like, seemed to take it even to like another level.
That definitely pushed us up into the stratosphere.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that record, oh yeah, Rob says he remembers sending an SDS7 to me through my local music store.
Yeah.
We have it, Rob. You boxed it up for me at Trout Farm.
Yeah, there's videos of you guys, of you using the pads for the hand claps and stuff. And
yep, you used to use it for hand claps, and I think I used it for what other sounds did I use it for? I can't remember. My brain is going. I mean, my memory is. They used to call me the memory of the band. Yeah, not so much anymore.
It was a long time ago. A lot of the stuff we're talking about was a while ago.
Yeah.
As Louis Bellson used to say, a few rim shots ago. So
yeah. many snare drum hits.
Exactly. My friend Penny Lane is just commenting that drummers are funny. Yes, we are. Uh, oh, here's a good question. If you weren't the drummer in the News, which other band would you have liked to drum for? It's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, if I wasn't the drummer for the News,
I'm guessing not Metallica.
no,
No, all right.
not Metallica, not my style.
Not your style.
It would have to be somebody like Tower of Power.
Exactly what I was going to say. Yep. Yeah, or like a Motown band or something. I could see you
Motown,
just
R&B, funk band. You know,
sliding right in.
I can play, or the Foo Fighters. I would love to play with the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, man.
Be great in the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, you would, and you sing backups too, like Taylor. So you could slide right in.
Yeah, Taylor.
Yeah.
I met Taylor once. I went to. I took my kids to see Foo Fighters over in Oakland one night, and after the show, I had no passes or anything, and I went to the backstage thing. I said, "Hey, I play with Huey in the News, and the security guy recognized me. He says, "All right, yeah, come on." And he took me back into the green room there, and I walked up to Taylor and I introduced myself. I said, "Hi, my name's Bill Gibson. I play drums with Huey Lewis in the News." And he looked at me and he said, "No way." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I played to your records growing up." And I've heard that from a lot of people.
Oh,
Dave,
absolutely.
Dave Weckl told me that. He said he played my records growing up. I went, "You gotta be kidding me." Because he took it light years further, obviously. By the way, he's one of my favorite drummers on the planet, Dave.
Yeah, me
And
too. Yeah.
guys like Dave and Dennis Chambers and Vinny, of course, and Steve Gadd and Rick and all those guys. Those are the guys who I really, really look up to. So to
But I
hear
could,
that, to
yeah,
hear that they grew up playing to your stuff is wow, what a compliment.
yeah. But I could see Dave saying that because when I got to know him, it was the late '80s when I really started to get to know Dave well into his time with Chick Corea. And you think of him as a guy that probably grew up playing jazz his whole life, but he, like us, he grew up he loved rock. I
Yeah,
remember we were talking about the Monkees once, how we both loved, we're the same age. We grew up at the time when the Monkees were on TV, and he's like, yeah, man, I'd watch them every week. And, I dug the music, and yeah. So I could see him being totally influenced by the groove and the pocket. And
yeah, yeah, it's cool.
I mean,
And guys
great
like
songs.
I really like guys like Antonio Sanchez,
Oh man.
who's just, to watch him play is it's nirvana for me.
Yeah.
The guy is so fabulous. And guys like Tom Breckline, Tom
I
Breckline,
know Tommy. Yeah.
what a great player he is, man.
Yeah.
And just guys like that who've really just taken it to a whole new place.
And both of those guys are great examples of guys that are like, you recognize them in a certain genre that they're known for, but way more versatile. You and I know they're way more versatile than maybe what people realize. Like
Yeah.
Antonio could rock out. I mean, he could sit down and definitely kick a band in the ass and groove. And
I went to Greg Crane invited me to go to one of his clinics once here in the Bay Area. So I went, and after the clinic, we went back to his hotel and sat and talked. And he was telling me how he grew up with Rush. He was a huge Rush fan,
yeah,
and he really started getting into that kind of progressive stuff through Rush. So
how about
that's
that? Yeah,
interesting to hear from a guy like Antonio.
I know. Yeah, I
So
wouldn't have. Yeah, I wouldn't have figured. Let me see if there's another question here we can. And my iPad, as usual, is a little slow. But I've got a couple questions I'm going to ask you, buddy. Okay, well, here's George Mead is asking you, how much do you practice and what do you practice?
I've been practicing 2 to 3 hours a day, and I never, I've had a lot of time lately because we can't tour. We haven't been able to tour, and now obviously nobody's touring.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of time the last 2.5 years. So I've been practicing 2 to 3 hours a day, and I practice molar technique a lot. I'm trying to get my speed up through the Moeller technique. And I've been practicing very basic stuff, doubles,
Yep.
paradiddles, all the rudiments. I've been really practicing the basics, and it's already helping me. It's to get around the kit, and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been going back to basics, really.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's all you need, really. I mean, that's like you
Yeah.
say, I mean, it's the foundation of everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I never practiced that stuff growing up. I just wanted to play in a band. That's all I wanted to do was play music and play songs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I never really got into the technical end of it. And, I never practiced Moeller. I was always just,
That's a hard technique to learn. Yeah.
it is. It is. It just takes doing it
Yeah.
like anything else.
Yep.
So I've been working on that a lot.
That's great, man. I'll bet your chops are through the roof.
They're
As our
getting,
friend Lenny used to say. Yeah.
yeah, they're getting there.
They've always been. I mean, I think it's for people to really get an accurate representation, they got to see the band live, because that's where, I mean, you hear stuff on the records, but then when you guys play, I mean, you play all this stuff. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Live is a better representation of what we can do, for sure.
The whole band. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see. Love the Sports album. My friend Carmina said we did a performance of Harder Rock and Roll in high school. It got a little, I think our typing got a little jumbled, but we got definitely got the gist of that. Technical question. There's a solid snare drum on eBay. What should a buyer look to pay? Oh, I don't know. Look for?
Depends on what the drum is, what it's made out of. I don't know. They were expensive drums, new, because of the time it took to make them, and they were expensive drums, new. I don't. What kind of drum? What solid drum is it?
Let's see if he
maple shell?
responds.
Is it a deep shell? Is it a piccolo? What?
Yeah, good question. And it's selling for 2,500, or it's up for 2,500. He says. Yeah.
Good Lord. I have a lot of them, and I don't think I'd ask that much if I was to sell them. Bill Melanson wants to know, what kit setup are you using in my studio? You want to see it?
Let's see it.
Okay.
And I'm going to just say hi to my friend Christian Thornton, who owns the best restaurant on Martha's Vineyard, Atria. Major plug. While Bill gets seated behind the drums, a shout out to Christian. Coming down next week, Christian. Hope to come in and see you guys. Look at this studio. Wow, man.
It's the Yamaha, new Yamaha Recording Custom.
8, 10, 12.
10, 12, 13, 14, 16.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
14 floor tom and 16 floor tom.
14 and 16 floor toms. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
With
16 by 22.
With, of course, all Zildjian cymbals.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And this Yamaha, I have this is courtesy Greg Crane, this Yamaha piccolo snare. That's really not, it's a 13-inch snare drum, and it's a brass drum, and boy, does it pop. I would hurt this microphone in my computer if I hit that.
I'll bet. Is it like 7 by 13? Something like that?
Six and a half, I believe.
6.5. Yeah, it looks
Great.
deep. I'll bet
I think it's 6.5. Yeah.
I'll bet it's killing. That was great, Bill.
Yeah, that's my setup. Here's my quilt my sister made, which is really out of old tour T-shirts.
Look at that. That's so cool.
Is that cool?
That's so cool. Yeah.
And it serves a purpose. It's deadened sound. We were concerned on that wall when we built the studio. We were concerned that would get a little too much reflection. So I said, I got just the thing. And I asked her to do, I've been wanting her to do it for a long time. And she's a quilter. So she made that for me and we hung it up. And you got to see, look what it's hung by.
Oh my God. Is it like 2 sticks end to end?
It's 1 stick. It's one of these.
Oh my God. Look
One
at
of
that.
these
Yeah.
giant sticks. My brother came in and cut it in half and put a steel rod or a metal rod in between the two and then hung it off. So it looks like it's hanging off a drumstick.
Oh, that's so cool.
Pretty sweet.
I want one of those. That is so cool. Joel Stevenette, a very fine drummer in his own right, is saying one of my favorite drummers.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Joel's a great guy.
Thank you, Joel. Appreciate it.
Yeah, somebody loved the drums. See if we get any more questions. I got a couple questions I was going to ask you. In the meantime, somebody earlier today had asked about the triplet fill and walking on a thin line, the break in the middle there. And you were nice enough for everybody who's watching when I commented on that a while ago. And Bill happened to be watching. And later that day or the next day, I got this awesome video of Bill right at his drums demonstrating the whole thing, slowing it down. I still can't play it the way you do. Even with you slowing down all the stickings, I'm like, okay, he's showing me what he's doing, but I cannot make those triplets work the way you do. But
yeah, it's just single stroke triplets between right, left kick, 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 right, left around the kit. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's where you're putting the accents but it's just the way it sounds is yeah,
it's a very easy lick, in my opinion. But then again, I know it might not be so easy for some other people.
It's an easy lick for a good drummer. I'll leave it at that. And this is funny. I was listening the other day to I Want a New Drug, and I had noticed this a long time ago, and I wanted to ask you, the solo that Chris plays at the end as it's fading out, he plays like a little riff of like Purple Haze. Okay? So it's like a nod to Jimi Hendrix, right?
Yeah.
Like yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's that. And that's one of those things that I think the first time I heard it, I thought that had to be on. That wasn't it. He did that as a little tribute. Yeah.
It was a nod to Jimmy.
A little nod to Jimmy. That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody who has that should listen to all the way through the end. There's some great guitar playing toward the end, and there's that little
yeah.
Cool.
We're kind of famous for throwing interesting little things, nods, and interesting things to hear right on the very fade of a tune.
Yeah. Yeah.
On Hit the B Square, the very last thing you hear is Dwight Clark from the 49ers singing, "It's Hit the B Square."
Oh, no kidding.
That's Dwight Clark.
Okay. All right.
Right on the fade out.
All right. I got to listen for that.
Yeah.
That's great. I thought you were going to say that fill you played toward the end. Blah, blah, da, 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 da. That.
Flap, flap.
After that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't know. I don't know where that came from. That was just probably me. Let's see, how did that go? That was a hybrid tune too. That was kick drum, and I played everything else. I played snare. I played the top half of the kit over a click track with a kick drum, just solid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think it was the ride out of the tune, and I just played some silly lick, and it ended up being the take,
It was in the moment. Yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah, you can hear that. Yeah. Oh, somebody's Mike Carter, the Catch, Dwight Clark.
Yep, that's him.
Okay. Yeah,
our pal who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. Very sad.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Joel says Bill always had the most radio-friendly sounding snare drums. Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you, so a little bit more drum geeking, and I know Greg's watching, so I hope Greg will understand. But like the first couple records, like Sports and Picture This, was a Sonor kit, right? Like a black
Yep.
Sonor kit.
Yep.
Yeah. So
That
that's
was
because
my very first kit was a Ludwig Super Classic, 1965. My dad got it for me, and he really didn't care if I got into drums. He would have a kit to play, and that my parents wound me up. They gave it to me at Christmas. I was 14 at the time, and I was just pining for a drum set. You know, can I get a drum? Will you buy me a drum set? And I would go in these catalog, like the Sears catalog, I'd look at, and they'd have the Crest drums.
yeah,
And,
that's my first kit.
yeah, and I'd look at those and I go, God, I want this so bad, and they just sandbagged me. They said, no, we can't do it. We just it's just not in the cards this year, Bill. I'm sorry, we just can't do it. So I'm okay. I understand. So Christmas morning, my sister and brother and I come out, and sitting in our living room is a brand new Ludwig Silver Sparkle Super Classic kit with Zildjian cymbals.
Wow.
Right. And I don't know what, too bad they didn't film that. I may have passed out. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But it was an unbelievable moment. And so right there, I was off and running. You know, I had my kit, and I'd practice in my bedroom for hours and hours and hours. And whenever I wasn't playing it, my dad would get in there and put on the headphones and play along to Oscar Peterson. You know, he'd play brushes with Ed Thigpen, you know, and
Yeah.
playing stuff. And so he loved it. I loved it. And my next kit, which I got maybe, probably maybe 10 years later. I had that kit for a long time. I still have that kit, by the way, that Silver Sparkle kit. My next kit was that's black Sonor kit. And I got road cases for it and everything, because by now I was playing with Jack Cassidy and SVT, and we were going on the road and doing stuff like that. So I got anvil cases for it, and still have that kit too. But yeah, that was and I love that kit. That was a really good drum set. Should
Great
break it.
sounding kit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I mean, all your Yamaha kits sound great. I've seen you with them a million times live, but you know, I watching the live concert from the Kabuki in '85 on that Stoner kit, man, they just were just beautiful sounding drums.
Yeah, they are.
And the snare was a Sonor as well. Do you remember on that kit? Was it? I couldn't tell.
No, the snare was a Tama.
It was a Tama. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I saved up enough money to buy a good. Hey, brother, there's my brother Ed.
Oh, cool.
And there's Colleen. Hi, Colleen. Oh, and my brother says I got the Sonor kit in 1978. Thanks for that, Ed.
Well, you were close. Yeah.
Remember? Yeah. What were we talking about?
The snare drum, was it one of those brass toms?
No, it was a birch.
Oh, it was a wood drum. Okay.
Yeah, it was wood drum. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something Star, something Thomas
Yeah.
Star. Can't remember the
Something
name.
Star back then. Yeah. What a great sounding drum.
It was a heavy drum, heavy wood drum. And back then it was when, you know, in that time in the 80s, early 80s, was when the snare drums were tuned real low, like Don Henley, like the Eagles, you know, you'd get that, and the snares would be loose, so it would sound like a gated reverb, but it was actually the snares going and cutting off. So and the head was tuned low, and you get that that sound, you know.
So you got that sound naturally from the drum, from your tuning versus any processing.
Yeah.
Very cool. And it looked like you were playing like probably coated ambassadors, or maybe, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. I mean, you always had a great sound, and like, to me, that's a huge part of it too. When, excuse me, when somebody not only knows how to play the drums and all the things that you do, but like you definitely have an ear to like get a great sound at the same time, and they always
Yeah,
sound great.
I always got great feedback on the sound out in the house, and I credit that 50-50 to how I tune the drums, and how Rob and I used to tune the drums, and our house sound guy. We always had a great house sound guy,
Yeah,
and that, Jimmy Moran, and that's a big part of it.
absolutely. Yeah,
Not there in the house,
yeah. No, it's great. Um,
but it does start with the kit for sure.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was just going to ask you too. I mean, because there's all these things that I don't want to forget to. I just want to see if there's any questions before I steer things along in another way. But um, Carlos is just sending all these funny little comments. um,
What's he say?
he said something about now that you now that I have you on my TV, Bill, you look better than Johnny D.
Ah,
uh, all
oh,
right, all right. I'm
yeah.
gonna. Oh,
My
sorry. Go
brother,
ahead.
my brother says once you got the anvil cases, your kit wouldn't fit in the VW Bug anymore.
Exactly. Yeah,
You're right.
that's the downside of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably couldn't fit the snare drum in there anymore.
We used to go up on, I live close to Mount Tamalpais here in Marin County, which is down up above Mill Valley. And I used to get 2 full Ludwig kits in my Volkswagen, me and a friend, and drive up to the top of Mount Tam. And we knew there was a concrete pad up there off Bolinas Ridge Road. And we used to take our drums there, set them up, and play all day up on the top
Oh,
of the mountain.
oh, that's so cool. That's the stuff you could do, like,
Yeah.
yeah, on a summer day, right? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
just let's go play some drums outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
You were saying?
Anthony Cusine is asking, how did you get the gig with Huey Lewis? Which you kind of talked about. Maybe you can give a little bit more info on how all that came together.
Yeah. Huey Lewis and the News is the union of 2 bands, 2 local Marin County bands. Huey and Sean were in a band called Clover, and Johnny Cola, Mario Cipollina, and myself were in a band called Soundhole. And we were all playing the same clubs. And back then there was you could play clubs all over the Bay Area, and we used to we'd just leapfrog each other around all the clubs in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And so it's really just the union of the 2 bands. We were all friends. We were all friends before we were bandmates. And so that's really just the union of the 2 bands. I didn't audition. There was no audition, or there was nothing like that. I just,
Yeah.
we put the 2 bands together, and that was it.
Yep. Yeah, that's and it always seemed that way to me, like a really organic thing where like, and I did in the early days, I didn't know the history of the 2 bands. It just seemed like you guys were all buddies from the Bay Area, basically, that knew each other and had this band from when you were younger that you paid your dues playing clubs
Yep.
And talking about that, one of the questions I had is, so when you guys did your first record, there was a record before Picture This, right? There was
Yep.
one that was before that.
Self-titled, Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah. And so you guys were, I'm guessing you were playing like the club circuit and like writing tunes and playing those tunes live. And then you just went into the studio. Same sort of format for the second record. Like,
Yep, exactly.
like didn't write stuff in the studio. You knew the tunes cold. You went in and it's like,
No, we never wrote in the studio. We'd always write at home in groups of 2s and 3s, and then go to the rehearsal hall and woodshed them, get them ready to record, then go in the studio and record them.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably played a lot of the songs live to really kind of get them tight before you go in and really.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cause I mean, they all sound, I mean, I mean, it's a recording, so of course you're always going to use your best takes. But they in my mind they sound like songs you probably just knew
Inside Out.
backwards and inside out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, and a good example of that is we had recorded Harder Rock and Roll for Sports, and once we got done with that record, we had to hold it from Chrysalis Records at the time. We had to keep it from the record company because they were in turmoil. They were going
Right.
through all kinds of business crap, and we knew we had a good record, right? We had a good record, and we just didn't want to give them to them, have them drop the ball on it. So we said, we're going to hold on to it until you guys get your shit together. And during that time, we went out on the road and did a whole club tour as the sports section. We were called the sports section, and we
Wow.
did an entire club tour. We'd show up at clubs as a band called the sports section. Nobody knew it was Huey Lewis and the News, except kind of the word leaked, and
Yeah.
pretty soon the clubs were packed, so during that time, we got off that tour. That was about a 6-week club tour, the entire United States. And we got off that tour and we realized that we were playing some of these tunes a lot better. So we went back in the studio and re-recorded Hard Rock and Roll. And that's the one that made it onto the sports album.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. And so that would have been around 83, maybe?
83, 1983. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool because you'd already had a big hit with Do You Believe in Love before
Yeah.
that. So you, like you say, if you'd gone out under your own name, you could have headlined as I'm sure on the strength of that. And wow, that's really cool. That's a great, yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And that year we also opened up for 38 Special and Loverboy. And they were big at the time. And we
Yeah.
did arenas, right? It was big arena tours. And we were opening up for both those bands. That was an awesome time, man. That was great.
I'll bet. And then within a year, I mean, as soon as that record came out, everything just changed though, right? I mean, that was.
I remember our production manager, Terry Persons, coming up to us after one gig. We were out with 38 Special. And he came up to us after one of those shows and he said, you guys will be headlining this same place next year. And we looked at him kind of like, really? You think so? I guarantee it. And sure enough, we were back at those same places the next year, headlining.
Yeah. I feel like you guys toured for like probably a solid couple of years, right? Or at least a couple of cycles on sports.
On sports sports we toured for 2 years. 4 we toured for 2 years. Small World we toured for almost 2 years. So we hit it pretty hard there for about from 82 to 92 we were on the road.
Yeah. Yep. Solid.
At one point we were gone. I was home for a total of 1 month out of 15.
That's tough. Yeah.
Went around the world twice.
It's nice to get those air miles, but that's people think, it's the life, but that's.
And it went by so fast. Oh my gosh. That time went by so fast. I think back on that and wow, too much fun.
Well, there's that too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you too, the Ludwig kit, if I'm not mistaken, is what's in the Power of Love video. Is that?
Yes.
That's what you're playing, the Silver Sparkle. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow. And that song is talk about a timeless song. Just knowing we were going to be chatting today, I've just been listening to, kind of re-listening to a lot of those songs, and all the songs, but that song is just, it was just so made for, I hate to say made for radio, but it's just it was a classic the minute it came out. You knew it. It reminds me of like, and I remember Huey saying this 10 years ago or something at a show. He said, who knew, or maybe we knew as soon as we recorded the song that we'd have to play it every night or something like that. Or
yeah, he'd say, who knew that when we wrote and recorded this song, we'd have to play it every night of our lives.
Well, yeah, I know. There's worse problems to have, though. It's a
No,
bigger problem. But it reminds me, like a song like "Brown Sugar" by the Rolling Stones, where like that's one of those tunes that like
yep.
you got to play it.
Yeah. Oh,
People,
yeah. It's a crowd pleaser.
yeah, they'll be leaving there that night going, "It was great, but they didn't play Power of Love. Why didn't they play it?"
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And I don't think
but
I don't think there's a show that we haven't played that we didn't play Power of Love. That's just one that you have to.
yeah,
It's just so tied to us that
yeah,
you got to play it.
great song,
And it's a good song too.
Yeah, it is. It is. If I were you, I would love every second of playing that because it's
Yeah, it is a fun song to play. I like that.
yeah, great stuff in it. And I a little more drum geeking too. Like I really appreciated the first time I heard it, that like opening the hi-hats like during the sort of chorus section of it, like the intro, and then like all those little subtle things that probably a lot of people miss. But as a drummer, you go, that is such a cool thing right there. Like instead of going to the ride cymbal, or it's like, no, I'm going to just open the hi-hat, then I'm going to play it tight for the verse, and then open it again, and
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. Here's a little drum geek thing for you on that song. When we recorded it, we cut that at the record plant in Sausalito.
Yeah.
And Jim Gaines engineered it. Jim Gaines had engineered our second album, Picture This, and I believe he engineered Sports as well. And Jim is an old Stax guy from Memphis. He worked at Stax Records back in the day, and then he kind of turned to pop music. He recorded Santana and Steve Miller Band, Fly Like an Eagle, and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So he went and he did Journey stuff. So he was in town. He was in Marin, and we talked to him, and he agreed to engineer. So on Power of Love, we're recording, and if you listen closely in the bridge section, there's two hits. They say that all in love is fair, yeah, but you don't care. You doom bam,
yeah.
I go doom bam, boom bam. One's on the high tom,
yeah,
and the next one is on the floor tom. The microphone was muted, and so the microphone was muted during the take. So you hear a really nice full high tom, doom da, and then you hear this kind of click, flat.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, that the floor tom mic was muted.
I would have insisted. I would have demanded you could go back and just
Yeah, but that just goes
No,
to show you that doesn't make any difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
That was the number one song, And
yeah.
Did that make a difference? Hell no.
And I feel like when I know exactly what you're talking about. I think I thought that might have been a snare hit because it sounded almost like a tighter. Yeah. Wow. Good bit of trivia there. And those little things you do in the hi-hat too in that section, that yeah. I mean, it's the whole tune it's like a work of art. It really is. And everybody's playing, not just you. The other guys are good on it too. So
yeah, Chris's solo on that's great.
Oh man, Chris. Yeah. He's a monster guitar player.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you keep in touch with him? I know he's come back and sat in a couple of times with you guys, and
oh yeah, he sat in with us a couple of times. He called. I spoke with him a couple of months ago. I was right before the shelter in place.
Yeah.
And he called and just to chat, and yeah, we keep in touch.
That's great.
We play golf. We go down to Huey's place in Palma Valley and play golf together. And yeah,
great. And he probably still plays, right? He probably still plays a little bit.
Yeah, not as much as you'd think, though. I asked him. I said, "Hey, you doing much playing?" And he says, "Nah, not really." So I was surprised to hear that.
Yeah, me too. Did you hit rim shots with that low tuning? Ross Cantor is asking, but I'm not sure what he's referring to now. Maybe in the snare drum when you were talking about when you had the snare tune so low.
No, I've never been a rim shot guy.
Yeah.
For effect, sure. In certain times when it when he calls for the effect of a rim shot, but I'm not. You see lots of guys nowadays who play matched grip, and they hit the rim and the head at the same time, and that's the sound. It's that pop,
Yeah.
and they do that on every hit, which is interesting to me. But I've never been that kind of player. I've always gone for I play the head.
Yeah. Yep. A good solid
Solid
backbeat.
whack on the head.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. I was just going to mention too, like people are talking about certain different tunes, and I think a record that should have gotten I know it did well relative to just kind of the whole way the world works now with records, but Hard at Play was such a great record, and it was probably at a time when things were starting to change with the different music coming in, and kind of I feel like that was the beginning of Nirvana coming in,
Exactly.
yeah,
It was the grunge. Grunge was just starting as
yep,
a rebellion against 80s music, against synth music. And
exactly,
yeah,
yep.
that's exactly what was happening.
But
And for us, it was a big time of change for us too, because all of us by that time had very young children. And
yeah,
Huey had just built his ranch up in Montana, and he right after that Hard at Play tour, he moved to Montana, took his whole family up there for 2 years. And we kind of had a hiatus.
right,
We didn't work for a year. Uh, so it was it was change time for us too.
yeah. But as you said earlier too, that was after 10 years of you guys being Hard at Play, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it was kind of nice to have. You probably missed it, but it was probably nice to have a little break too. And
I missed it,
yeah, yeah,
but it was fine to have a break. And like I said, we had kids. I was going through some a difficult period with relationship stuff, and
yeah.
um,
I think we both at the same time were,
I think we both were. Yeah, I remember
yeah,
we was talking about that.
yeah,
But, that was a tough time for me, but um, interesting time.
yeah, yeah.
And my kids were so young.
Well, it's the great thing about kids is I think our kids are around the same ages too, more or less, and they bounce back. And
How old's your son now?
he's 33. He just
Yeah,
turned
yeah.
33.
Julia will be 32 this year, and lives 29, so it's right around the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and my daughter Danielle will be 31 in September. So yeah, it was all that stuff. I remember us being on the phone and at gigs, crying on each other's shoulders and
Yeah.
the stuff we do.
Commiserating.
Yeah, commiserating.
Yeah.
But I really would recommend anybody watching, if you're not familiar with, Bill was talking about sports and Four and Small World, and the obviously the big mega records, but Hard at Play has so many great songs, and like Hit Me Like a Hammer, and the tune He Don't Know, is that what it's called?
You don't
Yeah,
know.
He Don't Know. That's an unbelievable song. I mean, Huey's vocal on that song is like,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
yeah,
great song. Don Covey wrote that song.
yeah, wow,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just
That was
it's
when we were kind of during the 80s. We were very prolific in writing the songs. We were just they were coming out like water.
yeah,
And right when it came time, the record company, we had switched labels. We went to EMI, and they were on us. There was a lot of pressure on us to come up with another big record, and we were writing a bit, but we didn't have enough songs for a record. So we started looking outside the group for good songs that would fit.
yeah.
And Don Covey had written "He Don't Know." There's another song, "Hit Me Like a Hammer." Mutt Lange wrote "Hit Me Like a Hammer."
Oh, okay, yeah,
Um, um, Reed Nielsen, I believe, wrote "That's Not Me." That's on that record.
yeah,
And so it's kind of stuff that we didn't write, but we felt would fit.
yeah, sure.
So we were kind of slowing down with our output.
which is, not an unusual, obviously after all those records and all those years. Yeah. I mean, at a point,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
there's
happens
only
to everybody. The muse,
happens.
the ghost comes in and the ghost leaves. You know?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I just saw Bill Fleming says Rod Morgenstein sends his regards to you.
Oh, fantastic. Boy,
Yeah.
there's another fantastic player, Rod.
Is
What
he
a
ever?
what a great band the Dixie Dregs were. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And tell Rod if you see him that I do his warm up um, going around the kit with one hand and right hand foot hand foot hand foot hand foot or the toms and left hand around the toms, right hand run with a kick alternating with a kick.
Oh man. Yeah.
That's Rod's warm up. I stole that from him. I still do that every day.
That's
So,
cool. That's a good warm up. Yeah. And he's a fellow lefty like me. Gotta
yeah,
love him.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. He's a bad dude.
He
Um,
is.
yeah. Somebody mentioned, I just saw too, and I was going to mention this as well, but um, somebody mentioned Jacob's Ladder. Yeah.
Um,
Great. Oh, John Olson, my old buddy, John Olson. Um, Again, a great part on that song. Just the perfect part. You always had just the right sensibility for like playing something unique, interesting, but perfect for the song. Like
yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah. Well,
the
I'm a musician too. I play other instruments. And I sing. So I'm
yeah,
aware musically. I'm not just aware rhythmically. And so I'm aware what's going on musically as well. And that really helps a drummer. And as a matter of fact, I would recommend that to drummers. Take piano lessons, you know,
yeah,
take
yeah,
pick up another instrument and learn the music end of it, learn the theory end of it. That helps so much with playing the song and learning what to play in the right spot.
yeah, yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. You're right. That makes and I think most people like yourself that are that accomplished would tell you that it's pick up another instrument. I heard you messing around with the bass when we were just getting set up, and Dennis Chambers like is a really good bass player. Like he can
Oh, is
sit
that
down and
right?
yeah, he can play a bass, and he would never tell you that, but I think that helps him in terms of like his sort of rounding out his musicality. And Charlie Drayton is a great bass player. And
No kidding.
yeah, Charlie's
I
yeah,
love Charlie.
yeah, yeah, me too.
Charlie reminds me of me in a way. You
Yeah,
know, I saw Charlie play with John Mayer one year, and it was fantastic. He was so rock solid. And of course, when you're playing with a guy who's playing guitar like John Mayer and singing, you really have to be mindful of when to put your stuff in, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's what informed me with Huey and the News. I'm playing behind a singer, so I can't be playing all this stuff when he's singing. So you really have to pick and choose your moments. And Charlie was just so tasteful with that, with John Mayer. I really like his playing. He's excellent.
Yeah, he's great. And I'm glad you said that, Bill. And that's huge what you just said. And that that's such an important function of being a good drummer is like you say, in a situation like that where you're behind a singer, you got to pick your spots. It would be easy. There's a lot of space where you could blow, and all the drummers out there would be going like, holy shit, did you hear what he just played? But obviously, you've got to play for what the song needs and take your moments. And yeah,
Exactly right.
it's an obvious thing, but I think it's a good lesson for a lot of drummers to sort of take home, is that you're not gonna get a gig like you have if it's the Bill Gibson show every night.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I know because I've been fired a lot from gigs.
I went to see John Legend. We were playing in Mississippi somewhere, and we had a night off, and John Legend was in town playing the same place we were going to play the next night. And this was maybe about 6 or 7 years ago. And I don't know who his drummer was. He was amazing. This guy had every chop in the book. He was a phenomenal player. But, and I hope you're not watching, whoever you were. I didn't catch your name, but whoever you were, I just want to let you know you're fantastic, unbelievable player, but calm down, brother. You know, he played over everything. Every 4 bars was a fill, you know, and
Yeah.
it ruined the show for me. It killed the show, because here's John Legend, who's a piano player, singer, very talented, good,
Yeah.
but my God, this guy just wouldn't quit in back of him, you know. It was like the me hour, you know, for the drummer, and I had to leave. I couldn't take it.
I totally know what you're saying, and I'm not having seen that, but I've seen that before, where even as a drummer, watching another good drummer, when it's not serving the music and the song,
Yeah.
it's a turnoff. And I think that's maybe part of us being a little older and more mature now, and that maybe when we were kids we would have dug it. Maybe, I don't know, but I know what you're saying, Bill. When I see a really good drummer, when I go see Steve Gadd with James Taylor, and he's just, yeah, he's hardly playing anything. A lot of times it's brushes, but he'll have that moment, and it's so special because there's this tension that's been building up by just him playing this thing, and then, the dynamics, and then it's,
I'm certain it can be the simplest fill in the world, but
yeah,
at the right moment, at the right time, with the right cymbal crash at the right time,
yeah,
boom, it just
yeah,
killed.
exactly.
I've seen Steve with James Taylor, and it's, if anybody ever gets the chance to see that, it's one of the, it'd be a highlight of your life. You know, James, first of all, for me, James is top 3 singer songwriter of my generation, and with Steve with him, and I've seen James many times, and actually had the honor of playing with him on Jimmy Kimmel's show a couple of years ago. But I've seen him with Carlos Vega when Carlos was the drummer, and
Yeah.
And then with Steve, and it is, even saw him with Russ Kunkel once, and
Cool.
but with Steve, that is just, it is magic, man.
Yeah.
Just magic.
I know. It really is. It's so special, and it's just, and it's hard. I think, I think any drummer comes away from, I don't know of any drummer that would come away thinking he didn't play enough,
No.
because you appreciate the musicality of what he's doing. And,
Yeah.
We were talking about our friend Rick Murata earlier in the, when we were off air, but Rick, I don't know if it's going to happen this summer, but Rick and his brother Jerry have this band on the Vineyard,
Right.
the Murata brothers.
You've
Yeah.
posted some videos about that. Yeah.
And it's a killing band. It's Rick and Jerry on drums, double drums, and then some local people on the Vineyard. Really great musicians. The singer Joanne Cassidy lives there in Edgartown, Martha's Vineyard, and she's amazing. She went to Berkeley, like Livia, and but lives there in the Vineyard now. Has a family and gives vocal lessons, and she's a professional musician, full time. Great guitar player, John Zeman, and his daughter Zoe plays bass. But the point I'm making is, you got 2 of the greatest drummers in this band, but the great thing about it is they both serve the songs. And it's, if you were to go see this band, you would see that Joanne, the singer, as it should be, is like the featured part of the band, because they play these classic tunes with great vocals, great music, and they support the band, and they have their moments, but it's
Rick's
a great,
always been that kind of drummer, right?
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Rick's a song. He plays the song, and he plays
Right.
what's right for the song. Same with
Without
Steve.
a doubt. Yeah. Same with Steve. Yeah, without a doubt. And and those are the guys that, that musicians want to have playing their records, or,
That's right.
yeah, or James Taylor wants to have tour with them. And
Yep.
yeah,
Exactly right.
Bob Chamberlain, Plan B.
I wouldn't turn down James if he asked me to tour with him.
Yeah. Yeah. If Steve had a conflict, and yeah.
Yeah. Steve had a conflict, I'd go.
I think a lot of guys feel that way.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Rick one time said to me, like during the summer, we were talking about, I think actually we went to go see James at Fenway Park. We left the Vineyard went up to see James and then stayed overnight at my house and then came back down. But he was saying something like, I'd play with, he played with him years ago. And he said something like, I'd play with him again, if I didn't have to travel or anything, if if I didn't have to do any of the bullshit stuff, I'd play with him again.
Yeah.
It was like something like that. That was,
Yeah.
funny. Typical Rick.
Well,
Let me see if
I want that lunch, John. I want that lunch with you, Rick Marotta, and Steve Gadd.
All right.
Bob.
We'll get Rick to buy. We're gonna have to use some of that Everybody Loves Raymond money to buy lunch.
Yeah, okay.
But I would love to do that. We'll figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, when the dust settles here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me see if there's any other questions here. And again, Bill, thanks for doing this. This has been great.
My pleasure.
Got to groove the pause. Yeah. Okay, let's see. I might have missed. Did you see any questions that we want to
I'm looking.
come back to? Oh, this is a great question from John Taylor. One of the tightest live tracks on YouTube is the version of Trouble in Paradise from that concert in the Kabuki in '85.
Yeah, that was on the We Are the World LP.
That's right. So that's the audio version of that on the soundtrack. Yeah. Yeah. What
is that my John Taylor? My pal John Taylor?
It might be.
Yeah, John's in England, and he's an old pal of ours. Wonderful guy. What was that a question? What was the question?
I think he's let's see. I think he's talking about, has there been a live moment that stands out in your memory as being specially great?
Yep. We played in Memphis one night. It was the 1985, I want to say. We played in Memphis, and it was when we had the Tower Power Horns with us, and Stevie Ray Vaughan was opening. Stevie opened about 6 months of that sports tour, and we got to be very close. I still keep in touch with Chris Layton, his drummer, Double Trouble's drummer, and
Whipper.
Yeah,
and
who's just a salt of the earth, great cat. And Stevie was a great guy. We got to be really close.
Wow.
And one night in Memphis, we played and we jammed. Our last song of the night was a blues shuffle. We played Bad as a blues shuffle. We had the Tower Power Horns, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Duck Dunn, Steve Cropper, and Carl Perkins.
Oh my God. Yeah. I can see why that would stand out.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a standout.
Oh, do you think that's on tape? Do you think has been recorded in any way, like video?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, it was a long time ago when they didn't.
Yeah, the no cell phones.
Wow.
There was another night in Paris that was interesting. Was Springsteen was in town. His wife at the time was Julianne. What was her name?
Yeah.
Julianne's not Julianne Moore.
No, Julianne. She was an actress.
Yeah, actress. Yeah. Well, she was in town filming a movie, and he was there, and he came to the show, and ended up sitting in with us after, and we did songs like Barefootin' and Take Me to the River, and old R&B stuff.
Yeah.
With Bruce, and that was a lot of fun, and that is on YouTube.
I gotta look for that.
Yeah.
I could see that because he was between you guys and him. The repertoire that you guys grew up with, that you could just call it and know it, you know what I mean? And just go, we know that, let's do it,
Yeah. We knew all the same tunes. We actually had a really nice dinner after that show, and the dinners in Paris last for 4 hours. So, we started about 11 at night. We didn't leave the restaurant till like 4 a.m. or something. And we talked about old R&B stuff and sang R&B tunes. We knew this. We grew up on the same music.
Yeah. Yep. You guys are all around the same age, and yeah, absolutely. Jim Wagey, tell Huey we love him. We hope his hearing gets better. Yeah, we absolutely do. Want to see you guys out there. Yeah, Jim's a
Yeah,
good guy from Kansas City. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And John says Mark Russo plays the half the saxophone solo on that Trouble in Paradise cut. That
Yeah.
was a live cut, and it's Mark and Johnny takes the first half and Mark takes the second half, and it's
It's
great.
unbelievable. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get the chills when I hear that, and yeah, because the way it's produced or recorded is it pans from one side to the other in your ears. So you hear Johnny start it,
Yeah.
and then Mark hits those notes, man, that are just like. But Johnny's no slouch either. He
No.
can play a saxophone.
Yeah, you can play it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a talented guy. I got to quickly tell this funny thing that you probably remember because I'm guessing it happened more than one time on this tour, but I feel like it was, I don't know what year it was. You guys were playing on a double bill with Chicago,
Yep.
and Tristan Bowden was in the band at the time
Yep.
in Chicago at the time, and I'd known Tris as long as I've known you, 30 something years. And at one point, you guys have Tris come out on stage with you and play harmonica.
Yeah.
And he's look, and I think even Huey said something like, "Who knew that this guy could play harmonica?" And he comes out and he's blowing like on a blues tune or something. And I'm going,
It was probably as bad as Bad Shuffle again.
It might have been.
I think it was. Yeah, and Tris was really good.
He was really good. Yeah, and he's afterward he said to me, "Oh yeah, man, I've been playing it since I was a kid or something. I fool around with it." I'm like, dude, I had no idea. Yeah, that was some funny stuff.
Good man, Tristan Bowden.
Oh, he sure is.
Really great guy.
He's top of the line, absolutely.
Yeah, we had fun on that tour because my pal Bill Champlin was playing keyboards.
That's right. He was still in the band, yeah.
Chicago. And he used to have his Leslie was off stage in back of the curtains. And so we would just go stand around his Leslie and listen to him play the B3 on Saturday in the Park. Was a thing of beauty, man. It was amazing. It was nothing like the record. He was R&B in it to death. You know, it was beautiful.
I can, yeah, because he was definitely, he has so much soul, Yeah, just Adam Tate says, Mr. Gibson, your groove, along with the likes of Jeff Beccaro, taught me how to play for the song. It takes an amazing set of chops to know when not to use them. Excellent. So great to hear from you. And please, and see you're doing well. And thanks to John. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Adam, for that great comment.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah. My theory has always been less is more, especially when you're playing behind a singer. And, the one cymbal crash at the right time is far more effective than 5 of them at the wrong time.
Yeah. So, well said. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of been my theory.
Yeah, because you're right. And as we said, because that one, whether it's a cymbal crash or that one thing that you do counts so much more when there's nothing else around it. It just stands out, and it really it moves you more, than, like you say, playing over every bar and every fill and every measure just with another thing. And you hope that people eventually realize that as they get older and play with more musicians. Well, before we wrap it too, I was going to ask you just maybe you mentioned when we were offline that you had your daughter was up there recording her record in your studio.
Yeah, my daughter Liv is a singer-songwriter, went to Berklee College of Music, like you said. And she lives in Los Angeles now. And she's been, she teaches down there. She teaches at a music school down there, which is great. It's very lucrative for her, actually. But she's been writing all along and recording and she put stuff out on her YouTube channel, and just trying to get something going. And she does cover gigs, and just gigging around and teaching and just trying to get something going. And she met this kid, AJ Jenkins, who's a young producer down there. And they had come up to the house on March 13th, 4 days before the shelter in place went into effect. And so we're sitting here one night and we're watching TV, and all of a sudden, yeah, shelter in place, don't go out, starts tomorrow at midnight. And I looked at him, I said, well, you guys you have your choice. You can go back home, but you're stuck in an apartment in crowded Los Angeles with your roommates. And, it's gonna, or you can stay here, stay at the house and work in the studio. And so that didn't take them long to figure out that they wanted to stay. So they stayed for 2 months. And
That's great.
it was awesome having them here for that long. And they were out here every day. They were writing. He was out here in the studio. He was actually working on other people's projects that he had, mixing and writing. And we actually finished 11 songs for her. And he's mixing them now. They went back to Los Angeles about 3 weeks ago, but he's mixing that stuff up. And Huey and I are going to try and shop it around for her and see if we can get something going for her, because it's just as good as anything you hear on the radio these days.
I'll bet. Yeah.
It's just as good. And so yeah, that was a really fun time.
I'll bet, man. Having your daughter there, just that in itself, and then being able to work with her and record, and yeah, that's great.
And I learned a lot too, because I'm learning. I mean, I've had a Pro Tools set up for quite some time, but I haven't really spent the time learning how to run it, like really digging deep into it. Mm-hmm. And so now I've had that chance, and having him here to give me all kinds of tips and show me a bunch of stuff. I've learned so much over the last couple of months. So and having the studio done has been a godsend at this time in our lives, when you're supposed to be staying home, which I am. But it's not hard for me to stay home now. I walk 20 steps and I'm in my studio. Yeah. So it's fantastic. I got a swimming pool, so if it's hot, I can swim. I can come in the studio. I can, I just hang. It's like an oasis here. It's great.
That's great. Yeah. Good for you, Bill. You deserve it, buddy. You deserve it. And I was just going to mention too, for anybody, just further to what Bill was saying, I've seen his daughter sing many, many times, because she went to Berkeley, and when Bill would play in Boston, she'd always be at the gigs, and she'd come up and sit in with the band and do a tune with Huey. And yeah, I mean, it was obvious early on that this was the direction she was going to go in. Yeah. Really talented.
She's got far more talent than the old man.
I wouldn't say that, though. I wouldn't say that.
I'm telling you, she's amazing.
Yeah. And she's a sweetheart too.
Somebody asked a question before you kicked.
Yeah, I saw a question about your bass drum pedal too.
I didn't see that. I saw something about the electronics I use.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
And I don't use any electronics anymore. I used to, but I don't use any electronics. None.
Man after my own heart. Yeah. Simple as that.
Yeah. What was the bass drum question?
Rodney Blake Powell, a couple days off, did you use a single pedal or double pedals? Which I know you talked about before.
Live is it's that's a machine on the record, but just the kick drum. Everything else is. But and I don't know, I can't really remember why we did it that way. I could have played it. It wouldn't have been as perfect, obviously. But I would have played it, because I play it live all the time. And it's a double pedal when I play live. Yeah.
You play it absolutely perfectly. Yeah. I mean,
and thank you, Greg Crane, for my new double Yamaha pedal, which is spectacular. I love it. Thanks, Greg, if you're still watching.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Greg, thanks for being you, Greg.
Yeah. Thanks for being you. No question. Yep. What a wonderful human being.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
Funny guy.
He is a funny guy. Yeah. Yeah. His sense of humor. Yeah, I know. I probably don't know him as well as you, although I've known him a long time, but it's.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Daryl Anderson as well down there at Yamaha.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Daryl. Absolutely.
And Greg are the two cats at Yamaha that I'm closest with, aside from a couple of the guys in Japan, but Yeah, those two guys, fabulous humans.
Good guys. Yep.
Honored to call friends.
Cool. And also, if Rob, if you're still watching, I'm looking at my iPad as I say this. If you're still watching, Rob, we both send you our love, buddy.
Yes, sir. Love you, Rob.
Yeah.
Hope to see you soon.
I know, man. That would be something. Well, I guess we're at the 90-minute mark-ish, so we can sign off. Suzanne Morissette, nice to see you again. Look for the updates.
Thank you, Susan.
And yeah. Well, Bill, hang on for a second. I'll end the stream and then we can say goodbye in the Zoom chat.
Okay, good.
So, all right. Thanks everybody for
thank
tuning
you,
in.
Thanks,
Big hand
Jeff.
for Bill Gibson. Thank you, Bill. One of my favorite humans and drummers. All right.